Ready?
We're open until 4 if it's raining.
Okay, thanks.
You want to go look at the pavilion? They have that
Yeah.
covered too.
Yeah.
So you should all get wet.
Want to go outside and make something? See what these ladies are doing outside?
Let's say this is what his office might have been at that time, with the exception of the cash register. We got a couple of them and they just stuck them all through the galleries. But Mr. Prack would can oysters, fruits, and vegetables. In the months with the letter R, he would harvest the oysters. The oysters would be caught in large big dredges like this one up here. And then the first place that they would be brought to would be right here, which was the shucking shed. Here in the shucking shed, the workers worked from sun up to sunset. They worked in these booths to try to keep their feet as warm and dry as possible. A good shucker could shuck about 20 of these pails a day, and they were paid by the token system. These are some of the original tokens. Then later on, we had the immigrants that came from Eastern Europe, and they also worked in the canneries from sun up to sunset. Now, once the oysters were shucked, the next station would be over here, which was called the filling station. We have many different artifacts here in the filling station, not all pertaining to Mr. Prack's oyster cannery. But the process that they used back in 1864 is depicted in that picture there. They first started off just steaming them in the big pots. Then, as the industry grew, so did the inventions. And a man named Stryver invented this. This is like a real big steam pressure cooker. And each one of these baskets holds about 100 cans. And 5 of them can fit down in this pressure cooker, so they could process about 500 cans per day. And this made the production faster and they could make money quicker. Over here is the conveyor belt. We have a structure for demonstration purposes only, but these conveyor belts were built overhead and they went from one end of the cannery to the other. And it worked. Moving the cans. And back here is where they made the cans, because Mr. Prack was very enterprising, and he also made the cans that he canned the oysters, fruits, and vegetables in. And these machines back here were designed for that. This machine here would cut out the lids for the cans, and this machine would bend the lids so that they could fit on top of the cans. And the body of the lids would be run through this here machine, and this machine would mold and bend the tins to form the body. And then all 3 parts would be put together in this station here, which was lead, so it would be soldered and sealed with the lead. And they used 100% lead at that time. So needless to say, the early cans were very, very dangerous. Contamination, food poisoning, lead poisoning, a lot of different things. This is one of the original cans that was made back during that time. And they used tin. And after a while, what happens with tin, when with the moisture, the water and stuff, they began to rust and stuff. And that also caused the food to get contaminated. And one of the responsibilities would be to make a model machine that could operate from scrap. So that's what these here are.
Hi. Hi, how are you? We're doing fine. Come on.
Hey.
Say hi.
The reason is that the blacksmith was the repairman for the machine shop. He would make and fix the parts to the machines. So you couldn't have an operating machine shop without the blacksmith being attached to it as the repairman. And they would process the meats and stuff. There's a picture of the original plant dated back from 1920. There's also pictures of the livestock that was being driven to the slaughterhouse.
That's sausage.
And all of these artifacts that you see here, these machines, they were originally at the Esgate Company. The one in the corner is a sausage caser, that's a slicer, this was a mixer, and this was a grinder. And they were all used at the Esgate Company. They also imported teas, and they had a tea house at their original plant. And then next to them is the Domino Sugar, and they bring in the sugar cane, from the various different places, the Gulf area of the United States, like Louisiana, Georgia, Florida. And then a lot of the sugar cane comes in from the Caribbean and from South America. And it's broken down into the raw sugar, that's the brown sugar that you see there, and then through chemical engineering, which is on this chart, it's processed, and then the final product comes out as the granulated sugar. And then it's packaged and sold to us in the markets. Then we had a large dairy industry here also. One of the earlier pioneers that made ice cream was Hammer's Ice Cream. And then next to them is Crown Cork and Seal, and they were the first bottle cap makers of disposable bottle caps in that industry. And these are some of the original artifacts from that particular company. Some of the tools, the baking tools, were also made of tin and stuff, and handcrafted by the workers in that industry. And any of the artifacts here on the table, you can feel free to examine them. And this was the cooling rack once the baking products came from the oven. Yeah, that was the donut. They would cut the
You
donuts.
laid it out, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then just roll and cut them out.
that was progress those
Yeah.
days.
And then these were the bundt cake pans that they used back then. They were also tin.
Yeah. When I was 4 years old, I did a Filbert's margarine commercial.
Oh, okay.
So that's why, and many times what would happen is they would shoot the commercials on the other coast with actors so that they had a requirement to pay residuals, but you had to keep track of how often the commercial was
Wow.
shown. So if you had actors who were doing it on another coast, it would be harder to keep track of.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Wow. Antique irons. This particular machine here is our oldest machine, and it's called the treadle machine. And it's not powered by electricity, it's powered by the foot pedal.
I learned to sew on one of them, which you wouldn't say how old it is.
Oh, they're collectibles now, though.
I know, but that's why I learned to sew on.
Yeah.
And there was a smaller version of them that was, I think, hand cranked.
It was my mother's pride and joy.
Yeah.
And
They
there used
still
to
work
be
today, though.
4 drawers, 2 on either side.
Yeah, I didn't get a modern one until I was married, and it was a wedding present. He bought it for me.
She never used it, but I bought it.
Well, the thing was, it's hard when you're used to doing a treadle that you can do anything.
So you'd punch your number in on the side here,
Yes.
and then
It would be recorded on the drum.
look at that.
They had the old, like, typewriter ribbon,
Yes.
you know, that
Yes.
they used back then. And the foot pedal operator would be the one to, you know,
Yeah, to
type
keep-
it onto the drum. Can you share some information about that, Scott, that linotype?
Sure.
Or do you have a minute? Okay.
I think he left it in the operable condition.
Okay. This is Scott. He's one of our masters.
And let me turn him on. Now, are you familiar with the linotype at all?
A little bit.
And in the hierarchy of printing, we like to think that it was the first big revolution after Gutenberg. So that's quite a few years, almost 500 years. And the reason being is because it made individual type turn into linotype.
Yes.
And as you can expect or imagine, that speeds up the process quite a bit. Now, that paper there, I'm told, took an army of typesetters to do because that was done before this. Therefore, it's all individual type. Imagine putting it together, setting it, doing the columns and everything. The advantage of this is, what happens, you actually assemble. When you come up a little closer, I'll show it to you. I don't have my spectacles on, so I'll have to be a little careful here. Unlock the keyboard. Let's see if he has it. I don't think so. What's going to happen is, this is full of matrices, and I'll show you one. There's many of these brass matrices in this. I think it's 1200, 1500. All the letters that you see on the keyboard are in this magazine. Most frequent on the left, least frequent on the right. And that's why you see the keyboard, which is probably not familiar to you. As you know, the QWERTY keyboard, which everyone's used to, was designed and invented to make you go slow, not fast. And the reason is, if you go back and look at the manual typewriter back there, and it's happened to everybody that's used one, if you're not careful, you can get two keys trying to get into the guide at the same time. Well, you have to go slower sometimes to avoid that. This keyboard is designed to allow you to go as fast as you possibly can for production. You'll see the most frequently occurring letters on the left in normal use and the least on the right. Now, what happens is, when you have your copy and you decide what you want, you have to assemble it here, and without my spectacles I'll try to do it. Now, I visited, let's see, and I do not know the keyboard. Let's see, BDD space BMI, uppercase B. Good. Where is it? B M I space, and I'll put a safety one in the back. Now they're not coming down because I didn't have this turned on. That's my fault. The novice at work. Do it again. Let me clear these. They didn't assemble on this rail, which is where they got to go. They just piled up because I didn't have this turned on. It doesn't matter because I'll put them back in later. No problem. So you can see how much difficulty a mistake is. If this was you got a notebook computer at home or a desktop or something. Okay, start over again. I visited, let's see, space. Now they're assembling. Can you see the reference side of all the matrices? Let's see, where is it? Now, I heard 2 clicks. That probably means that 2 of them dropped, and it did. So instead of being able to backspace over, like your computer, I have to go get that matrix out of there to correct the line. Looks okay right now. Now, what's going to happen is, let me get the clutch back out. What's going to happen is, these are assembled here. They're going to be clasped, and they're going to move over in this direction in front of a mold. Behind the mold, and you can see it back here, there's a crucible full of liquid type metal. There's a piston going to come down, and hydrostatic force is going to push it into the, let me take one of these. There's the mold side of the matrix. there's the reference side that you're looking at. That's where the type metal's going to go. It's going to be forced in there and solidify in, what, 10 microseconds or a millisecond or something like that. Then hopefully, it's going to eject the slug, and the slug's going to come down here. Now, I'm going to do it one time so you can see it, and I'm not going to cast. And you can see him going back to where the matrix is. And then I'll redo it again and we'll cast it. So, let's see. Okay, hold on. Looks okay. Okay, it did not cast. Now, you see him hanging on there?
Yeah.
Those are the matrices that were here. They've got to go back in here and be recirculated, otherwise you'll run out. If I pile them all up here as I make mistakes, you'll run out. What's the most frequent letter used in the alphabet? It's a lowercase e. Well, I'm told that the column for the lowercase e matrices is full. What's one of the least uppercase? X? Well, I'm told there's only one or two in there. The other point is, you see where the first column is with regard to the scroll and these matrices going back? It's as close as you can get. It's the first one that comes off. It's going to drop off that scroll because of gravity and come back in the first column. You need that because you need the lowercase e's the most frequently. If the lowercase e were here, see how long it takes that scroll to get across? You might run out. So it's frequency of use. Okay, I'm going to send those back and let them go. And you'll hear them clink going down into the magazine as they go back home, hopefully. Well, they're not all back yet. That last one was probably the uppercase B because that's on the end. So, let's see if I can cast. I'll do it again. Oops. That's okay. Let's see. S. I. T. E. V. Space. D. O. I. Space. On. Let's see. O, N, space, and the figures are very difficult to see. What's the date? The 10? 9? 10? 10? 10? I'm not even sure I can find a 1. Well, we'll have to say October. O, C, T, and I'll put a safety space. Now let's check it. Since I'm not that good at this. Now, everything looks okay to me. And the other thing I'm keeping an eye on is this is all that's remaining of my measure. So if I have too much here, and this gets closed up, I got to be careful because that means it won't fit in the mold. So let's see what's going to happen. We'll try it, and this time I will let it cast, and hopefully it'll be okay. Okay, cast that bump, and there comes your slug. Give it a few seconds so you can just touch it like that. With your, just touch, real quick. Is it cooling off?
Yeah.
Okay, getting cooler?
Yeah. Well, it's still hot.
The person that sits here, he's old and he's got raggedy old fingers and he can grab them right away. That's the slug. Does it say what we said? What we had typed in? Same problem as me. Yeah. We'll go over and do a proof and we'll check it. And you have this, I'll give you this. Now I'm going to put some ink on it. When I do this, you'll have to read it because I can't see it without my spectacles. So, should be enough. Want to try this color? Does that look okay?
Yeah, it'll come out nice and clear on there.
Okay. Try not to smear. Is that correct? Upside down?
I visited BMI in October.
In October, on October? There it is.
On October.
You can have this. I'll-
Made and manufactured here in Baltimore. It says, born in Baltimore, raised everywhere. So this was the first state and city that they manufactured them, and they were manufactured by women. The ice cream maker,
Excuse me.
the umbrella, the linotype machine, several different things started here.
Yeah, there's Martin Aircraft. Yeah.
Yeah, and each one of the panels gives you even more detailed information and also a closer look at some of the artifacts that were used back at that time.
Look at this washing machine. Here's another washing machine. Well, Bree, here we are at Charm City Cakes. But you're right. They're open by appointment only. Yeah, this is where we have lunch. Good lunch.